Hey everyone, thank you guys for clicking on this video. Today I'll be talking about a horror film called Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare. This is in theaters for just 3 days, January 13th through the 15th. The director is Scott Chambers, which I've never seen any of his previous works. He does a lot of B-flick horror movies. He is going to be the director of Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey Part 3, and he is Christopher Robin in the Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey films. The film stars Martin Portlock and Megan Placito. I've never seen any of these actors or actresses in a film before, so it's my introduction towards them. What is this film ultimately about? Well, it's about a girl named Wendy who has a brother named Michael. Her brother gets kidnapped by Peter Pan, and he is basically just picking off victims one by one and sending them to Neverland. Now, I went into this movie completely blind. I knew it was coming out. There was no promotion whatsoever for this film. I didn't even know a trailer was actually out. I watched the trailer later on after I watched the film. And because there was no promotion for this film, I was very skeptical going into it. I didn't know what the story was going to be. And I'll start off by saying, from a perspective of just building Peter Pan, I think the actor, Martin Portlock, does a decent job for what he is actually given. I think that he is kind of an intimidating Peter Pan. Obviously, Peter Pan is not a really good guy in this film. He is taking prisoners and no names and just killing them off one by one. The opening scene I actually did enjoy. There is a mother and son, and Peter Pan is trying to lure this little boy who is not a main character in the film. He's just kind of a side character that he is picking off all these little kids one by one and their parents as well. And there was a really good slasher portion. I'm not going to give away the kill, but the opening scene I thought was pretty decently done. Just a cool little opening before the beginning credits started to roll. And I will also give a little bit of props to certain parts of how this was filmed. For a low-budget film, at certain points, I do think it's decently shot. That's all I can really praise for this film, though. It is not a good movie, and there is a list of reasons why this movie is not good. First off, we'll start off with the story itself. It is so basic and so bare bones, and one of the things I didn't like about this film is it doesn't have an identity. It rips off of so many other horror films. There's a part where I mentioned in the beginning scene where Peter Pan is trying to lure this little boy. He has this little trap little door, very much like Evil Dead. And then if you've obviously seen it, you know that Georgie gets snatched up by Pennywise and he lures him in. That's exactly how that scene actually unfolds in the beginning of the film. So right then and there is similarities to other horror films. Then, also with Peter, he has some makeup where he's hanging out at this like carnival in the beginning of the film, and he has makeup that is very similar to the Joker. I recognized it right away, and I was like, okay, so we're going that route as well, which we only see that in like the beginning of the film. He really doesn't have that kind of clown makeup throughout this, but he does have it in the beginning of the film. The plot itself, now, if you've seen The Black Phone, I'm not the biggest fan of that movie, but in the plot of this film, we have Peter going around in a van. He has balloons, exactly like the grabber in The Black Phone, and he's kidnapping kids, and he's taking them back to this house, and he's picking them off one by one. That was the biggest problem that I had for this film, is it's just ripping off all these horror films and just really having no identity whatsoever. It's just a very straight and narrow type of film. Also with this film is just the way it's filmed in like darker scenes. It's super grainy. To me, this is the third film in this monster Pooh universe that they're doing here. And I expected a little bit more from them, a little bit better quality. Now, the first Winnie the Pooh wasn't that good. You could laugh at it. But, you know, I could go back and revisit that film, sure. The second one was a lot better. It seemed like there was a little bit more budget put into it. And the stories, yeah, they're not, like, amazing by any stretch of the imagination, but I just felt like with this third one, it just seemed more so a downgrade from all the other films that we've seen from these directors, and again, it wasn't promoted well. And my theory is, so we have this, we also have Pinocchio coming up, we have Bambi coming up. I honestly think that they're not going to promote any of these movies, and what they're going to do is, what little money they can actually scrape together, they're going to make Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey Part 3, and then they're going to be doing like the monster universe, kind of like the Avengers and everything like that they actually announced. I think they're going to use all that money and put all their effort into those films, and then they're just going to drop these other small films just in theaters, not really tell you about them, and really put no effort or really much of a trailer, I would say, because that's how this film actually feels. Also, too, you have Captain Hook in here, who has nothing to do. They give no characterization whatsoever. And then you have Tinkerbell. Now, Tinkerbell is changing from a man to a woman in this, and he is a drug addict, and also he snorts pixie dust. And nothing else does Tinkerbell actually contribute in this film whatsoever. So, a bad story in which most of the time this film is actually filmed in a house where he's taking these kids. He talks about Neverland in this film, but honestly, we never see Neverland. We see like little depictions of Neverland on like a wall, and it's like in Crown, but that's really all about it. Even the kills seem very uninspired. It's mainly done with a knife. I mean, just little slash here and there. I mean, there's some blood, no doubt about it. But it just felt like Peter didn't really have a lot of characterization. And I felt sorry for him in a way, because in a way, I think like the acting and like the way that he kind of contributes to the character, like intimidating, you know, maybe the audience or little kids. I think like he does a good job with that, but he just doesn't have a lot of characterization. It was just really hard to really get into the story. Some of the acting is just horrible to actually watch. To me, just like the biggest thing with this and why I was so disappointed with it is, like I said, just no identity whatsoever, no creativity. It's just bad. It's just nothing that we haven't seen before, and I was really disappointed by the end of this. The ending, I mean, they try to set it up for a sequel. I really hope we don't get it. I mean, unless they somehow do a little bit more, because even the fact that it has a lower budget, I think you could have actually included Neverland here. I mean, really, all they really had was pretty much one set at a house, and then there's a couple scenes where it's outside of that, like there's like the woods, and there's like a school at one point, but, you know, you don't get a lot of characterization with Wendy or her brother. Her brother gets kidnapped right away, and it's just a really big miss, guys. I really wish I could sit here and say, okay, this third film was a good time, but it just wasn't. I just was not impressed whatsoever. So as far as a score for this, I would give it a 1 out of 5. It's just really bad film, guys. I wish I could sit here and say that it was worth your time, but it's just not. So if you want to check it out, I would say check it out for free if you can, or pay the lowest price possible, because it's just not really worth your time. But I understand if you're following these movies and you want to check it out, despite the fact of just thinking that it's not going to be good. I wouldn't even say this is a even fun film. And I think that's the thing too, is not only is it just kind of straight and narrow, but it's not fun at all. Even with Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey, I don't like that first movie whatsoever, but I can have fun with that movie and at least laugh at it. With this, I can't even laugh at it. It just really is needing creativity really bad and identity. So that's my review on Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare. Let me know in the comments, what did you guys think about this movie? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Did you just think it was kind of meh? Thank you guys for watching as always, and I will see you guys next time.